Bride of the Monster. Bride of the Monster. Yeah. Yeah, Bride of the Monster. Yeah, Ed Wood. That's Ed Wood. Ed Wood Jr. Hi again. This is Film Brown out of the Kirkwood vaults. Been sitting here thinking, you know, you might think this is kind of dumb-headed, but what's going through my head is just Bride of the Monster, Bride of the Monster. You know, I'm sort of single-minded right now. Just thinking about that title alone kind of is interesting. Bride of the Monster. I mean, it could be any kind of different movie that we're talking about. But this is a film that is directed, produced, and written by none other than Edward D. Jr. Edward Wood. Ed Wood. You might have seen the Tim Burton biopic about Ed Wood. Johnny Depp played him. Did a nice job on him. Bride of the Monster really is not that much covered in that film. That one focused more on Plan 9 from outer space. Bride of the Monster was shot in 1956. And originally it was called Bride of the Atom. I like looking at alternative titles. I mean, it just gives you an idea of the, you know, these guys are never sure about anything. You know, it's like, hey, we'll have 15 different titles and that'll make us look good. This film was co-written by a guy named Alex Gordon. Alex Gordon was more known as a producer of films. He made a film that I remember seeing back in 1965 on Friday Night Movie Date. Anybody from Des Moines remembers Friday Night Movie Date? You know, stay if you dare for spine-tingling episodes of horror, that kind of thing. My brother never saw one of those little promos for those films, but he'd always come out and say, the eyes, the eyes. The eyes would bother him. He didn't know that there was actually shots of these eyes glaring. Now, of course, he probably did know it, but he was, you know, goofy brother, whatever. But anyway, on that Atomic Submarine, very bad movie that Alex Gordon produced. Matter of fact, he produced a lot of bad movies. The She-Creature and Voodoo Woman. Just the name of that alone, Voodoo Woman. Okay, not some, run-of-the-mill title. Useful, interesting. Okay, talking about bad filmmakers, Ed Wood is known as being a bad filmmaker. Matter of fact, the Medved brothers, when they released their book, the Golden Turkey book, labeled him the worst filmmaker of all time. Now, I'm not sure if he deserves that title, but certainly his films do have an interesting look to them. This film stars none other than Bela Lugosi. Now, I do a real bad Bela Lugosi imitation, so I won't even try to do that. He plays Dr. Vornoff, okay, who's trying to create this race of atomic beings. He worked with a lot of Wood near the end of his career. Started with Glen or Glenda. Now that's an interesting film, Glen or Glenda, that Bela Lugosi basically was the narrator in between the different skits. He's best known for his Plan 9 from outer space role, which basically was a non-role. And we'll talk about that if you ever get a chance to see Plan 9 from outer space. One of the guys in this film I find to be very interesting, a guy named Tor Johnson. He's the big bald-headed wrestler type guy. As a matter of fact, he was a Swedish wrestler. I was just reading on this guy. This guy had been in films since the early 30s, okay, appearing as a variety of strong men. He was even in one of the Marx Brothers films, At the Circus. He makes his appearance in this. He plays Lobo. What a great name for a guy, Lobo. He's one of the more successful, and if this is successful, experiments that Dr. Vornoff has pulled off. He is to be, well, mated with a woman who's played by Loretta King. She's the potential bride of the monster. So if you're wondering where the bride of the monster thing comes in, that's where it comes from. Loretta King is a reporter that comes in and, well, basically is going to become the bride of the monster. Obviously, it's taken its sort of its name from Bride of Frankenstein, that kind of thing. Another interesting figure in this film is a guy named Eddie Parker Jr. Now, the reason why I find Eddie Parker Jr. interesting is Eddie Parker was the stunt double for Bela Lugosi in this film. Okay, and there's a scene in here where he has to fight this giant rubber octopus, and no doubt that's Eddie Parker Jr. Well, Eddie Parker Jr. Also was a man who did the stunt work for Bela Lugosi earlier on with, well, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. So already they'd had some contact with each other. Now, talking about that giant rubber octopus that appears at the end of this film, there's an interesting story about that little thing. Not so little. It was a big, giant, rubber octopus. It was a prop or a set left over from Cecil B. DeMille from a film that he made called Reap the Wild Wind. And if you remember seeing that film, there's, people talk about, hey, what films did John Wayne die in? Well, he didn't die in any. Well, sure he did. Remember the Cowboys? He died in that one. Okay, he dies in The Shootist. But here's another one he died in. He died in the arms of this octopus. It was John Wayne in a deep sea diving outfit with a big helmet on, and he gets his demise, okay, if you will, through the giant octopus. Well, Bela Lugosi has to fight that baby. Okay. Ed Wood, interesting filmmaker. Very interesting filmmaker. Been named, called every name in the book. But like him or not, he has gained a critical following from people who consider him to be almost godlike. Matter of fact, I was just on the internet and there is this group called the Church of the Heavenly Wood. And it is run by a guy named Reverend Steve. I can respect a guy named Reverend Steve. Okay, who argues that Ed Wood is a savior figure, okay, and that he is, what did he call him? He is the Lord of the strange and the Lord of our guidance. Okay, if you're interested, go on the internet and look for it. Just type in Ed Wood. You're going to find the Church of a Heavenly Wood. Okay. Why don't we take a look at this film? This film is going to interest you. One of the things I would be interested in you maybe emailing me about, some of you film folks, Ed Wood seemed to have a similar style across his films, seemed to work with the same people across many of his films. Likewise, he wrote and directed and in some cases edited his own movies. Is he an auteur? Is he an auteur in the truest sense? One wonders if there is that style, you got the stylistic core there going perhaps, that minimalism, that minimalist set, and his disregard for a regular Hollywood convention, which could come from a lack of budget, or it could be that he was a revolutionary in the terms of Godard or any of the Nouvelle Vague folks where we're experimenting with the subject matter. Well, are we giving him too much credit? Likewise, is there a thematic core? Is there a theme that traces through Ed Wood's films? Is there somebody out there who's given Ed Wood a lot of thought and have looked at a lot of his films and found this thematic thread that connects all of these movies? I'd be interested in your ideas on that. I got a few ideas of my own. Maybe we can share on the old internet some ideas on that. Give me a shot. Okay. Think you'll enjoy this film. One of the best ways to enjoy this film is don't expect a lot. And also, try to find some value in things that just don't look the way that you expect them to look. There's some very strange looking sets in here. I'll tell you, there's one guy in here that I think you'll find interesting. There's a guy, his name is Harvey Dunn. He plays the police captain. Notice he always has a bird on his shoulder all the time. Well, you think he's a pirate or something like that, but he's the police captain. And you wonder, what the heck is the deal with the bird? Okay, now I used to have cockatiels, and I used to have birds on my shoulders. And you'd walk away and you'd always have this big pile of poop on your shoulder. I wonder if he had that problem, okay? But the problem is, why does he have this bird? Well, in a real life, this man was a clown who entertained children at parties, and the birds were a part of his act. So Ed Wood, being sort of finding that clever, let the police captain keep the bird on his shoulder. I kind of like that. It made the guy feel comfortable. I guess he felt more at home when he had a bird on his shoulder than when he didn't. Okay. That's enough on that tonight. I think you'll have a good time with this. Sit back, get some popcorn going, get your notes out so that you can get a shot breakdown of this. I'll be checking you later on, okay? Bride of the Monster. Good movie. Believe it or not. Roll 'em, Smokey.